this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator. So happy to be joined this afternoon by JJ Parker, who is CEO of Carousel. Thanks so much for joining me, JJ. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan.
So let's get right into it. Can you share some insights with our audience as to why Carousel believes digital signage has such a promising future?
Well, so we've been in the digital signage industry since before it was a word, right? We started in 1997. Back then, it was video bulletin board systems. We were putting those into schools. And so we've been around a long time. So for us, we're kind of like the old guard or something in this industry. But even after 20 years, I still feel like digital signage is an emerging market, right? The tech's been around a long time, but the thing that's really exciting for us to watch is that, back in the early 2000s, everything was very expensive, right? The panels were expensive, the media players were expensive, the signage was expensive, and it was like pretty labor intensive to deploy and manage all that stuff, right? So digital signage networks cost a lot of money. Well, nowadays, panels are cheap, right? Panels are everywhere, right? Like lots of customers that we come across aren't putting in new panels. They already have panels everywhere, right? Media players, the whole landscape of media players is very different than it was years ago, even 5 years ago, right? And for us, devices that maybe typically weren't media players are now emerging to be media players, like, for instance, like Apple TVs or immersive or a screen beam, like screen sharing devices are now becoming media players, right? So it's kind of like there's these multi-use devices emerging that is expanding the places we can actually put digital signage. So I think it's a very exciting time to be in the digital signage market because the number of endpoints we can have, where those endpoints are, is really expanding. And I think people are really finding a lot more value in digital signage now than they were years ago. We kind of talk about how, like, in the early days, digital signage was kind of like almost like a vanity thing, like hey, look at, we're a super cool high-tech company because we have digital signage. Well, right. Nowadays, like, that's not enough, right? Signage has got to have like a real strong ROI. You have to be able to like show its value. And that's where we like to be, right? Like, we want to have like a strong ROI behind our product. So yeah, it's very exciting to be in digital signage nowadays.
I agree completely, and I think that the growth opportunity is truly unlimited. And you've alluded to your personal experience and Carousel's long experience in digital signage, decades of experience. Can you share with Commercial Integrator's audience of integrators and resellers a bit about Carousel's history, even more than you've given so far, and also just why Carousel is a great company to partner with? What makes you such a great company to have as a digital signage partner?
So we've been selling through the channel forever, for like our whole company's history, right? And quite exclusively for most of that time. Like, when we first started the business, like, we even leveraged manufacturers' reps to sell to AV integrators and resellers, like, on our behalf. So that was like a typical model of that time period.
Mm-hmm.
But what that allowed us to develop is like a really strong kind of like channel management and process. And we really, like, I feel like more than a lot of other kind of like software companies understand like the what integrators do and like what value they bring us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, without the integrators, like, our customers can't get a complete solution, right? Like, we need the integrators. Like, we need them to hang and bang panels. We need them to go hook up all the stuff. We don't do that like as a software company, right? So for us, we truly understand the value of our reseller and integration partners. we've been selling through the channel for a very long time. So we know how to handle deals. We know how to like make sure, all kind of all the concerns are properly met.
Mhm.
Um, and truly how to like support those integrators, because like, again, we know what it's like to have like an integrator have to like roll a truck on a tech support problem, like to a school, and then like give us a call. And, like if we don't answer the phone right away and know how to help that tech that's on site, that's not a good situation. Right. So,
No.
so we definitely know how to support our reseller partners, both from a pre-sale, like helping on demos, helping configure systems, and more importantly, from a post-sale perspective, like making sure that system sticks, make sure we don't have problems, making sure if there is problems, we know how important it is and how urgent it is to solve those in the right time frame, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
And that commitment to your reseller partners is obviously going to resonate tremendously with commercial integrators audience. You're speaking exactly to those partners, and knowing your commitment to them is just going to, further emphasize the value of being with a company like Carousel. Can you offer some of Carousel's and your own insights into how integrator partners can most effectively build and nurture strong customer relationships in this ever-growing and so opportune digital signage category?
Yep. Well, so uh, hopefully for some of our audience, they've been actually, many of them, right? Very many of them have actually sold our product in the past, right? Again, as a channel company, there's probably not a reseller that maybe hasn't sold some of our product at some point, which is super cool. But um, when we first started, we sold our product as an appliance, right? Like you bought a carousel system, it came in a box, you went and installed it at the customer site, um, plugged it in the TV, right? Digital
Mhm.
signage. We have, in the past couple of years, transitioned to purely a software company and specifically software as a service, right? Which means the end users buy our product on a subscription. Right. So that's kind of a different model than we had traditionally gone after. And frankly, that's a little different model than a lot of the integrators and resellers were used to selling, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of them are very used to like, hey, there's a SKU, I buy the thing, it comes in my warehouse, whatever, I sell it to my customer, I bring it there, right? Um, so what we've been doing, and what I think is really exciting for the integration partners specifically, is building up this base of recurring revenue, right? And so I really like Carousel and our digital signage software as a recurring revenue product, as a software as a subscription or software as a service product, for a couple of reasons. Like first, for the end user, it aligns our value with theirs, right? Like if they're effective at communicating inside in their buildings, right, with their students, with their staff, whatever, they'll continue to buy our product, right?
Right.
If we're not effective at delivering great communication and they're not finding value in our product, they can just cancel the subscription. Cool, right? Like we have to earn it every year. I like that model. Um, I also like the subscription model because it's good for our business, right? And it helps us create a more stable revenue stream. Um, and so instead of trying to go get like new sales every single month, every single year, we can build up our subscription base. Um, I really want all of our reseller partners to also build up their subscription revenue base with us and with our carousel product, because again, it makes a great customer relationship. You get, monthly or at least yearly check-ins with the customer, make sure you're adding value, you're like nurturing that relationship all of the time, right?
Mhm.
And I think what our reseller partners are going to find out is that building a book of business on a subscription product like Carousel really helps stabilize their businesses.
So moving on from there, and I certainly agree with you incidentally about the recurring monthly revenue opportunities centered on digital signage and carousel in particular. We've already identified digital signage offers strong opportunities for growth. Are there particular opportunities, kind of a pinpoint targeting that integrators and resellers should be leveraging
Mhm.
that you can speak to from your kind of unique vantage point as a digital signage expert and speaking with
Yep.
a company that is very, very prominent and successful within the digital signage category?
Yeah. Well, so uh, really, uh, the huge opportunity that I see for resellers and integrators is they've got lots of customers, right? They've actually sold lots of different things to lots of different businesses and schools and governments, right? I think one of the really interesting opportunities that resellers have specifically around digital signage is that a lot of the customers that they maybe sold signage to at some point in time
Mhm.
that put like a sign like, okay, we could put one in our lobby and we put one in the break room, right? Like very small things. Um, the opportunity to go back to those customers and say, hey, you got two signs, but did you also know that you can put all of that same content into your conference rooms or into all of your classrooms, right? So this idea that they can go re-educate the customer and say, hey, you can expand that stuff to all sorts of different places. Like you can put it out on your desktops, on your folks' laptops as a screensaver. You know, you can push this information out to Slack. You can embed it in your website, right? So going back to their existing customer base and
Mhm.
expanding the reach of that signage system that they already sold is a huge opportunity because it's like it's not like a net new sale. It's not like they need to go find someone they've never talked to before. They just need to like scroll through the Rolodex and just dial the people they already sold it to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a whole lot easier than trying to start from square one, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Yep.
One way the carousel is supporting integrators and resellers is by investing in creating useful tools and
Mhm.
resources that they can benefit from. What can you tell me about the Selling Signage video series? Because I think that's a really good example of one of those tools and resources.
Yeah. So, again, like one of the things that we really wanted to help uh, integrators with was getting their heads around like the subscription model and like the benefits of doing the subscription model and some of like the nuts and bolts of it, right? So we've been working with Mike White, who is a longtime like industry vet, right? He worked at multimedia, or he owned multimedia solutions, worked at Unified AV, right? Like
Mhm.
very well known. And so we wanted to create an education series for integrators to help them understand like how to position and sell and support a subscription product like Carousel.
Mhm.
So we brought Mike in. It's a 4-part video series. We're going to be launching it shortly. You can check that out on our website. And again, it's just to educate and inspire this like different business model that everyone might not be super familiar with or comfortable with. But we really think it's like the future of a lot of the kinds of products that integrators are going to sell.
And a really exciting future it is. And I give you kudos for being on the vanguard of that. Thank you so much, JJ Parker, for joining me, CEO of Carousel. I am Dan Farisi, Editor in Chief of Commercial Integrator, and we look forward to having more great conversations like this one in the weeks and months ahead. But once again, thank you, JJ.
Thanks, Dan.